was the sabbatical? Even though I've been back since March, and I don't leave again until December, late December, people keep asking me, how was the sabbatical? Much of it is curiosity. Folks genuinely want to know how I'm doing, what it's like to pause and travel and just be. Sometimes there's a hint of jealousy. People want to know how they can arrange such a thing in their own lives, with their own work, or just fantasize about doing so. A few academics have asked how to do a sabbatical right, to be both productive and also restorative. So how was the sabbatical? It was amazing. I learned and wrote and hiked and swam. I ate some good fish. I drank some good beer. I read a bunch of books. I watched some bad television. I watched some good television. I practiced yoga. I meditated every day. I spent a good chunk of time on Maui at an Airbnb in the rainforest, half an hour from civilization during the Omicron surge, standing in my tefillin on my lanai as the sun was coming up, singing into the jungle. I've done it before, but allow me to stand here today with so many of you present and thank our board and our staff, Alex Pomerantz and Rav Tyler, for ensuring Beth Am's ongoing success in my absence. I am a better rabbi for having had this time. I could not have done so without all of the people who really stepped up while I was away. I could go on and on about my experiences from the sublime, hearing whale song, sacred time with family and friends, celebrating our 20th wedding anniversary, Miriam and I, to the mundane, house projects that had been on hold pretty much since we bought our house. But Yom Kippur isn't for me to brag before you about my time away. My job, of course, is to teach something. So what did I learn in my first half of my 6-month sabbatical? In short, I learned to breathe. James Nestor's memoir, Breath, explores the lost art and science of breathing. He highlights doctors, yogis, scientists, wacky hermits, and cloistered monks. He describes how many of today's Western ailments can be traced to bad breathing habits, mouth breathing, breathing too little, breathing too much. He celebrates the wonders of the nostrils. Have you noticed how sometimes you seem to breathe more through one nostril than the other? That's by design. Left nostril breathing, he writes, shifts blood flow to the opposite side of the prefrontal cortex. The right area plays a role in creative thought, emotions, formation of mental abstractions. The book explores how dietary changes with the Industrial Revolution robbed humans of tougher foods that better work our jaw muscles. Muscular deterioration begets smaller airways, begets poorer breathing, but good, healthy breathing creates myriad positive health outcomes. I was, so to speak, blown away, especially as I, like all of us, have been living through a time when breathing is dangerous. In addition to reading that book, I became acutely aware of my breathing on sabbatical when praying, while singing, certainly while meditating, but mostly when scuba diving. One goal I had during my time on Maui was to learn a new skill. Riding jerry-rigged electric bikes retrofitted with questionably safe lithium batteries through the rainforest without a helmet with my disaffected Jewish hippie Airbnb host didn't seem to count as a skill. I was on an island, so I figured it was either surfing or scuba. I chose scuba. Raise your hand if you've been scuba diving. Amazing. All right, so you can put your hands down. Now raise your hand if you haven't, but you want to learn. All right. I find people fall kind of firmly in two categories here. Those who are excited to try it and those who are terrified by the thought of it. And that's okay, to each their own. But the reason I think scuba diving really terrifies some people is that you're relying on compressed air underwater to breathe, and breathing is that thing that we all need to do, that thing that we can't live without. So my friends, I want to share some thoughts about breathing in Jewish tradition, how intentional, even prayerful breathing is as intrinsic to Judaism as anything else. But first, allow me to share something important that I discovered while scuba diving, because I think scuba is an apt metaphor for life, and for the life we're meant to lead, the life that we aspire to on Yom Kippur. When you scuba dive, you breathe through something called a regulator. You take slow and steady breaths in and out. To do this, you don't want to overexert yourself because that would deplete your air supply too quickly. Scuba is best done slowly and calmly. So you want to conserve energy, and the best way to do that is not to be kicking up or kicking down in the water. To scuba dive efficiently, you want to achieve what's called neutral buoyancy. You reach a particular depth with weights, usually, and then you stay there. Now, without getting too technical, the diver does this, achieves neutral buoyancy, by adjusting their BCD, their buoyancy control device, a vest that can inflate or deflate incrementally. Everybody with me? Okay. So here's the problem. Once you've achieved neutral buoyancy, which takes some practice, I will tell you, you don't want to hover in one place. You probably want to explore reefs and chase fish and observe sea turtles. Guess what? The bottom of the ocean or the top of the reef, they're not flat. So there I am, 15 or 20 feet under the water, swimming along and trying not to bump into the coral, which would do irreparable harm to this fragile ecosystem. And I'm constantly inflating or deflating my BCD in these tiny bursts until I realize something magical, something that I learned in the videos before I went into the water, but that really didn't enter my brain until I was in the water. A full set of lungs makes you a little bit more buoyant. Emptier lungs creates negative buoyancy, makes you sink a little. Experienced divers know this. The best way to maintain neutral buoyancy isn't through fancy scuba devices, it's by breathing. Inhale a bit more and you rise. Exhale more completely and you sink. Breathing the right way underwater kind of makes you fly. Now, I get that nautical flights of fancy cruising over brain coral through schools of shimmering fish is not life. Hawaii, for most of us, is not reality, except for Miriam, who is there right now and was sending me photos of her snorkeling with Stephanie Munaz this morning. But I digress. Look, folks, the truth is that life these days isn't so easy. 2.5 years after COVID began, many struggle with isolation and anxiety. Seeing the face of a friend, once a source of joy, has become more fraught. Family relationships are strained. And oh, by the way, the world is still on fire. Russia's war on Ukraine, Hurricane Ian, rising inflation, rising anti-Semitism, LGBTQ rights under attack, 300 plus murders a year in Baltimore, again, persistent systemic racism, the state exerting control over women's reproductive systems. Now, of course, it's not all bad. Some of us are doing quite well, but many of us feel exasperated, like we're sinking. We struggle to catch our breath. We struggle to achieve neutral buoyancy. But this chavra is exactly why we must. The sea churns, the currents can be strong, storms gather, but they pass in time. Meanwhile, we owe it to ourselves not to lose ourselves. Faith can certainly help. I'll be teaching a course on faith after the Chagim. Come learn with me. A piyut that we heard the choir sing this evening imagines faith and God as a potter in the narrative. Ki hine kachomer b'yad hayotzer. As clay in the hand of a potter who thickens or thins it at will, so are we in your hands, guardian of love. The Payatan, the liturgical poet, borrows the image from Jeremiah, where God is depicted as threatening and in a deliciously subversive way converts national concerns into personal ones and a judging God into one who shapes and even caresses humanity, because faith is often not what we are told that it is. But the most powerful element of this piyut is actually the word yotzer, the potter or craftsman, which comes straight out of Genesis, actually. How does God create humanity? By fashioning us afar min ha'adama, from the dust of the earth. What's the verb? Vayitzer Adonai Elohim et Adam. God shaped the first human form. But notice that this person, this earthling, as Rabbi Arthur Waskow puts it, is not complete. It is not yet a nefesh chaya, a living being. How does that happen? Through breath. Vayipach be'apav nishmat chayim. God blew into its nostrils the breath of life. God exhales through the mouth. Humanity inhales through our noses. Our very first moment as a species is all about breathing, just as every human, every baby from that point would become a living being through breath. What's the Hebrew word for soul? Neshama, right? What about the Hebrew word for breath? Neshima. Souls in the Jewish imagination are not little orbs of light contained within us. Our souls are dynamic manifestations of divine breath. We breathe in and out with our lungs, but we also breathe in and out with our being. What's the word for spirit? Ruach. That's a Krieger Schechter education there. Ruach, wind. In the beginning, before God even had a name and we were even a glint in the divine eye, Ruach Elohim merachefet al penei hamayim, the spirit, the wind of God, hovered over the face of the water. God first appears as buoyant, neutrally buoyant, bobbing along over the unformed deep. Nishmat kol chai tevarech et shimcha Adonai Eloheinu. We sing each Shabbat morning, just as we sing it on Yontif morning, and we'll do tomorrow morning. The soul, the breath of all life, same word, blesses your name, O God. Why does the prayer use the word tevarech from bracha, blessing? Why do we bless God at all? Shouldn't it be the other way around? Blessing is a poor translation of bracha. But bracha, derives from the Proto-Semitic word baraka, which really means life force. It is the energy that flows through all creation. In India, they call this prana. In Hawaii, it's mana. Our word for the same concept is bracha. When we bless God, we're acknowledging the one who is the source of barakah, of bracha, and we pray you will continue passing it along to us. Creation knows its creator at the subatomic level, even if we have trouble explaining God or understanding God, or perhaps even believing in God. We are intuitively aware at some level that we owe our existence to something greater and fuller than us. That's what we mean when we sing Nishmat Kol Chai, our very existence, blessing God's name, prayer. Says Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, is our humble answer to the inconceivable surprise of living. Think about it. What happens when we feel truly one with the universe? And I'm guessing all of us have had moments like this. when we access, even fleetingly, that primordial creative energy that brought the world into being. The word for that is inspiration, right? From the Latin inspiritus. To inspire is to breathe, to inhale from the oversoul into our own souls. When we die, there's a word for that. We expire. We breathe out our last physical breath, giving our energy back to the cosmos. In the meantime, during our lives, we breathe hundreds of millions of times. We inhale, we exhale, all the while throughout our lives, we try to remain in balance, in equilibrium, neutrally buoyant. But too often, we strive for these things while ignoring our breath. We think breathing is automatic, and it is, and it isn't. On my sabbatical, I learned how to breathe. Would you care to try an exercise with me? All right. If you're willing, close your eyes for a moment. Let's take a long, slow breath in through the nose. And a long, slow breath out through the mouth. Now try it again. Slow inhale and slow exhale. And as you exhale, imagine you're making vapor on a frosty glass window. Now try it again with your mouth closed when you exhale, but same idea. Inhale through the nose, exhale with your mouth closed as if you're blowing on that window. Let's just do this a few times. This is called Pranayama Breath. It's a central component of yoga. It's controlled breathing. So let's keep the eyes closed and continue breathing slowly, in and out. For the next part, you can just continue breathing, or if you can, while you breathe, picture God's name in Hebrew. God's proper name is 4 letters only: Yud, He, Vav, He. Now as we breathe, slowly in and out through the nose, let's take a moment to focus on each of those letters. The first, Yud, is small, like a sliver. This is our lungs when they contract, our bodies in the fetal position. The Yud is our compressed selves. As we inhale, we expand. Our lungs expand. Our arteries become enriched with oxygen. This is the first He. As we fill up fully with air, at the apex of our inhalation, we become the Vav, erect, unencumbered. Imagine our life force filling every cavity of our bodies. And then we exhale from the Vav to the final He of God's name, until our lungs are empty and we are the Yud once more. So take a minute to try this a few times at your own pace, a few cycles of breath, imagining our bodies, our being as each of those letters: Yud, He, Vav, He. Now let's keep breathing, but let's slowly open our eyes. For some people, that was incredibly comfortable and typical, and maybe you're meditators or yoga practitioners yourselves. And for some of us, that was maybe a little uncomfortable. So with our eyes open, I want to thank you for going on that journey with me, and I want to introduce one more image. There's an ancient Kabbalistic teaching that equates each of these 4 letters of God's name with tzedakah. Both the physical act of giving and receiving and the spiritual act of being created. In this sense, the yud, the small and compact yud, is like a coin. The hey, looking a bit like a hand, and in gematria the number 5, is the hand of the giver. The vav is the outstretched arm, and the other in whose hand the coin is sitting, and the final hey is the hand of the beggar, the person who receives the tzedakah. Okay? As I mentioned on Rosh Hashanah, this is our year of tzedek. Perhaps we can use this image as we think about the value of distributive justice, but the deeper meaning of the imagery is that God is the one giving and we are the ones taking. What are we receiving? Nothing less than our very existence. Every time we inhale, we are created anew. We imbibe holiness. Our souls become enriched. But it's not just about the shape of those letters. The very essence of the Tetragrammaton, God's proper name, is existence itself. Rabbi Arthur Green explains Yud-He Vav-He is a word without vowels, which is why we don't know how to pronounce it. But paradoxically, it's also a word with no real consonants. Yud, He, and Vav are really blowing sounds, he says, rushing of air through the mouth. There is nothing hard or concrete about them. So it's not just that we shouldn't pronounce this word, it is perhaps impossible. And then there's its meaning. Yud, He, Vav, He is derived from the same 3-letter root as lihiot, to be. But its tense isn't clear, nor does it have a discernible gender. Green translates God's name as is, was, will be. In fact, he teaches the Hebrew word for being is havaya, which is simply a switching around of the letters in Yud, He, Vav, He. On sabbatical, I learned how to breathe because I remembered how to pray, because I gave myself space and time to be surprised by and grateful for my life. It felt, quite honestly, something akin to what it might have been like for the high priest to enter the Holy of Holies. This, as you know, is something that happened rarely, only once a year. Today, on Yom Kippur, during temple times, one man would enter the inner sanctum. Hebrew University scholar Yisrael Kanol suggests that Israelite priestly worship, in contrast with other traditions, was silent, that the sanctuary was silent. The Levites would sing and vocalize psalms and prayers on the steps as they ascended to the Temple Mount, but notice none of our 150 psalms are ascribed to Kohanim. In tomorrow's afternoon avodah service, so the afternoon of the morning, the stunning and inspiring prayer of the high priest for the new year is offered after he emerges from the Holy of Holies. So what does the Kohen Gadol do when he enters the inner sanctum on Yom Kippur? When he pronounces the unpronounceable name? Perhaps he just breathes. How does one speak a word without consonants? How does one fully appreciate the gift of human life, lives that began with breath and end when breath is no more? And how do we achieve neutral buoyancy, glide into a new year, making adjustments so as to navigate shifting conditions, the uneven landscape before us? There are numerous ways to explore the breath within and beyond Jewish tradition. Emily Selman is leading Shabbat morning movement and yoga at Beth Am once a month. The Institute for Jewish Spirituality does a free daily guided meditation. You can hop on and just sit with people all over the world and breathe. There are countless possibilities and resources that can feel a bit overwhelming, I know, but life can also be overwhelming, right? There are tools and techniques to help guide us along our way. Breathing like living is not automatic. Not if we want a better quality to our lives, a greater purpose in this world. There is no more temple, no high priest to atone for our sins, no inner sanctum. What to do? We must instead enter a vessel shaped not by our ancestors in Jerusalem, but by the Holy One in Gan Eden. On Yom Kippur, over the course of this day, we might go into the temple of our inner being. Connect with our nishamot, our souls, through our nishimot, our breath. This is why the service offers us quiet moments. The Amidah, the moments between the choir or clergy-led portions of the davening, these are our sanctuaries of silence. If you allow yourself to enter them, you may find yourself steadier, more buoyant, enriched by a life force that inhabits but transcends physical form. However, our breath can help us achieve life's neutral buoyancy, today and every day. Neutrally buoyant, who knows what we may discover? After all, the world is an ocean of possibility. Good Yantif.